Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. Let's get talking with Rog so we can find out the daily news of US, Europe, and other things related to that.
Good morning. Let me get this
Good morning.
on here.
Okay. I don't know why this piece of hair is just like...
I got 5 stories, man.
5?
A couple of them aren't that long. So,
Okay.
All right. I can just
Today
go
on
on my
Before
headlines
Coffee,
once.
it's worrying. Greek election ban on extremist party may be too little, too late.
Well, on 5-Story Friday, we have FBI arrests National Guardsmen and leak of classified documents.
Russian ally Serbia denies supplying weapons to Ukraine.
Justice Clarence Thomas failed to report a real estate deal with a Texas billionaire.
More in UK immigration news, Ukrainian Orchestra's key members refuse visa to play.
And Dan Snyder agrees to sell Washington Commanders for a record $6 billion. We also have exploding cows and 2 feet of rain in Florida today on Before Coffee.
All right, for my first news story. Crackdown on Hellenis and its Golden Dawn leader, Ilias Kasidiaris, could cause more problems than it solves. From Athens. For 2 years, Ilias Kasidiaris, a convicted leader of the now disbanded neo-Nazi Golden Dawn Party, has used social media to address supporters from Domokos prison in central Greece. Month after month, the former MP rallied against the inability of the corrupt political regime to govern the country in a stream of hate-filled speeches. For his 134,000 subscribers on YouTube, the exhortations are lifeline to Kasidiaris and the Hellenis, the small nationalist party he set up shortly before being handed a 13.5-year prison term for his role in the Golden Dawn. And they seem to be paying off. 30 months after the violent neo-Nazi fascist group was found to be a criminal gang that had masqueraded as a political organization, targeting immigrants, killing a Greek rapper, and lashing out at leftists, the appeal of the famous short-tempered Kasidiaris does not appear to have faded. On the contrary, it seems to have grown, says Kostis Papianou, who directs Signal, a research group that studies far-right extremism. He's even been given the opportunity to conduct radio shows from his cell and has been very effective in using social media to rally support among the young. What? Are they stupid? Okay, anyways. This dude's a dangerous political leader. Hurry, let people have access to him. It's worrying. If general elections were held tomorrow in his party, it would likely exceed the 3% threshold to get into parliament. On Wednesday, less than 6 weeks before Greece heads to the polls, and only hours after lawmakers voted to ban the Hellenis from fielding candidates, Domokos Prison's Disciplinary Council convened an emergency session as it began examining whether the 42-year-old had flouted prison rules permitting him to have contact solely with close family and lawyers. Exchanges that can only take place using a phone card. The council is expected to announce possible punitive measures on April 20th. Kasidiaris' actions, which first came to light 2 years ago, have caused considerable embarrassment for the center-right government. In October 2021, as the revelation surfaced, Sofia Nicolaou, the official heading the anti-crime policy using Citizens Protection Ministry, not only called for an investigation, but demanded the guards be punished if found to be aiding and abetting the prisoner. In early 2022, Nicolaou moved on since the Kasidiaris interventions have flourished. Tuesday's late night vote to prohibit the extremists from participating in the next month's elections follows the legislative passed in February that sought to make it impossible for the Hellenists to run, citing its leader's criminal conviction. The latest legislation passed backing passed with the backing of the ruling New Democracy Party and center-left PASOK, broadened the scope of the original ban, making even that impossible. Although the country's Supreme Court will decide on 5th of May whether the law should be placed on the statute books. Opponents have accused the government of doing too little too late before an election that is looking increasingly close. In a nation where the Communist Party was long outlawed, the ban has raised concerns over its constitutionality. The leftist opposition abstained from Tuesday's vote, arguing it would set a dangerous precedent and even work to the advantage of the unrepentant Casiadaris. With one ascendant New Democracy popularity hit by a deadly train crash that has taken a wrecking ball in its narrative of effective governance, and no party likely to win an outright majority, smaller groups have picked up support. On the right, the Hellenists have particularly bolstered by anti-Semitic fury in the wake of the disaster perceived to have been avoidable. Casiadaris, the right-hand man of Golden Dawn's self-titled Führer, Nikos Michalakios, led the extremist party infamous hit squads and trained its member in martial arts. If the Supreme Court refuses to uphold the ban on the ultra-nationalist running group, the group's popularity could grow further, warned Dimitris Marvos, who headed the pollsters' MRB. Right now, we're already measuring its support at between 4 to 4.5%, he said, calling the role of the Hellenist Party potentially decisive in the upcoming election. There you go. That's my story.
Okay. All right, in espionage news, FBI arrests National Guardsman and leaked classified information. Our authorities say Jack Teixeira, 21-year-old member of the Massachusetts Air National Guard, posted sensitive materials on online chat group. How did he get it? He's probably an IT guy. This is a New York Times story. The FBI arrested 21-year-old member of Massachusetts National Guard on Thursday in connection with the leak of dozens of highly classified documents containing an array of national security secrets, including the breadth of surveillance the United States is able to conduct on Russia. Airman First Class Jack Douglas Teixeira was taken into custody after charges of leaking classified documents after federal authorities said he had posted batches of sensitive intelligence to online gaming chat group called the Thug Shaker Central. As reporters of the New York Times gathered near the house on Thursday afternoon, about a half dozen FBI agents pushed into the home of Airman Teixeira's mother and Elizabeth's mommy in North Digton with a 2-engine government surveillance plane keeping watch overhead. Mom's like, "What's that?" Some of the agents arrived heavily armed. Law enforcement officials learned before the search that Airman Teixeira was in possession of multiple weapons, and according to personnel familiar with the investigation, the FBI found guns at the house. Not long after cameras caught a handcuffed Airman Teixeira wearing red shorts, boots, being led away from the home by 2 heavily armed men. The Washington Attorney General Merrick Garland, in a brief statement, announced that the arrest and said that Airman Teixeira would be arraigned in a federal district court in Massachusetts. Mr. Garland said he was arrested in connection with the unauthorized removal, retention, and transmission of classified national defense information in reference to the Espionage Act, which is used to prosecute the mishandling and theft of sensitive intelligence. The arrest raised questions about why such a junior enlisted airman had access to such an array of potentially damaging secrets. Why adequate safeguards are not put in place after earlier leaks. And why a young man would risk his freedom to share intelligence about a war in Iraq with a group of friends he knew from video games social media site.
As somebody who does do gaming, a lot of people say a lot of stuff because they're like, well, 1, I'm on the internet, so I'm anonymous, and 2, these guys get me. They'll understand.
Well, again, he wants to impress his friends, just like Trump shows classified maps to his friends. Hey, look at what I can do. Yeah, we know you're the president, moron.
I'm high up in the government, I know.
Yeah, look at me, I got access. Yeah, exactly. He's 21. That tells you everything you need to know. And several months ago, a user of Thug Shaker Central, known as OJ, began uploading hundreds of pages of intelligence briefings into a small chat group. The group also disclosed discuss guns and military equipment, as well as the original subject of their group, video games. While the other members of the chat group would not identify the group's leader by name, a trail of digital evidence supplied by the Times led to Airman Teixeira, and American officials have confirmed that they believe he uploaded the information taken improperly out of U.S. military computers. All right, so there you go. There's your baseline for it. We'll explore this later. I don't want
Yeah, speaking of
to drag
baseline,
this story out too long.
Speaking of baseline reports,
A gamer on
President says
Discord.
Belgrade has not, nor will it, send Kyiv arms after leaked Pentagon papers claim Serbia had agreed to send weapons. The Serbian president says his country has not sold arms to Ukraine. It would not do so after a leaked Pentagon report said Belgrade had agreed to provide arms to Kyiv, according to foreign media reports. Serbia has not or will not export weapons to Ukraine, Alexander Vucic told reporters on Thursday, according to the Beta News agency. He added that the Balkan nation, a traditional Russian ally, has not nor will it send an ammunition to either Ukraine or Russia. There is no paper that would show something like that. Reuters reported on Wednesday that the classified Pentagon document alleged that Serbia had agreed to supply arms to Kyiv and has sent them already. The news agency said it could not independently verify the document's authenticity. The Serbian Defense Minister, Milos Vujicic, quickly rejected the allegations that said his country has not yet and will not sell weapons to either Ukraine or Russia. Someone obviously aims to drag Serbia into that conflict, but we adhere to our policy consistently, he said in a statement. The leaked Pentagon report is a summary of European government's response to Ukraine's request for military training and lethal aid, according to media reports. Apart from Belarus, Serbia is the only European nation that has not joined Western sanctions against Moscow, but the country, which aspires to join the EU, has backed several UN resolutions against Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. Just nice, short and sweet. Serbia isn't going to do that, but, sometimes you can't take those leaks as a fact.
It was leaked on purpose?
Yeah.
Is that it? Next
yeah,
story?
It was really short and sweet, so...
Oh. Okay, so more trouble for Clarence Thomas. This is really completely ridiculous. Just imagine, just to start over here, before we start. Somebody buys your house from you. Your mom lives in it. They buy your house, pay you really a fair price, not too exorbitant, but they let your mom live in the house that they just bought rent-free. And basically rebuild the whole house because she's older and she needs, wheelchair ramps, whatever. So basically, you're getting a house that you sold, your mom still gets to live in it rent-free, and you're a Supreme Court judge.
And they pay for all the renovations, right?
And
it's their house. Yeah.
And not only that, you're supposed to disclose any real estate transactions. And all you had to do to make this legal was report it. That's it. That's all you had to do. Justice Clarence Thomas did not disclose that he had sold a series of properties to a longtime conservative donor and Hitler memorabilia collector, Alan Crow. The transaction is the first known instance of money going directly from the billionaire donor. The revelation cast greater scrutiny on Justice Thomas, who has long raised eyebrows over questions of conflict of interest, in part because of his political activism with his wife, Ginny Thomas. The nature of Justice Thomas' relationship with the real estate magnate has elicited particular attention after ProRepublica detailed last week how he accompanied Mr. Crow on lavish trips for nearly 20 years without disclosing them. It is including island hopping in Indonesia and staying at Mr. Crow's 105-acre lakeside retreat in the Adirondack Mountains. The disclosures have fueled calls for the Democratic lawmakers and court transparency advocates for the justices to face tighter constraints. He should resign, is what he should do. But he's not, because, he's making good money. In 2014, a real estate company linked to Mr. Crow bought a single-family home and 2 vacant lots on quiet Savannah Street, paying $133,363 to Justice Thomas and his family for the property, ProRepublica said. Justice Thomas did not respond to a request for a comment. In a statement last week, he addressed reports to his luxury vacations. Early in my tenure in court, I sought out guidance from my colleagues and others from the judiciary and was advised that it's sort of personal hospitality. Well, that's talking about the personal hospitality. That's not talking about not disclosing a real estate transaction, which is a violation of federal law of punishment by 1 year in prison. My intention for one day to create a public museum in Thomas' home dedicated to telling the story of how our nation's second black Supreme Court justice was born in Point, Georgia, and later raised in Savannah, he said. Okay, that's what it was about. Now, that's just Mr. Crow talking. According to ProPublica, which is apparently he's doing some really good investigative journalism, one of Mr. Crow's companies bought the property from 3 owners, Justice Thomas, his mother, and the family of Justice Thomas's late brother. After the sale, the contractors made a number of improvements to the property where the Justice's mother still lives. His mother is still alive? He's like 80. Advocates pushing for greater transparency at the court said most recent revelations well beyond typical social activities. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who should run for president, by the way, his name is Whitehouse, Democrat from Rhode Island, said in a statement that he would call on the policymaking body for federal courts to refer Justice Thomas to the Attorney General for potential violations of government ethics law. The Supreme Court justices are so deeply ensconced in cocoon of special interest money that they can no longer be trusted to police themselves without proper process, he said, adding that Chief Justice John Roberts could open an ethics investigation into Justice Thomas's financial ties to Mr. Crow and his apparent brazen disregard for disclosure laws. The net worth of Justice Thomas and his wife is unclear. What is known is pieced together from financial disclosures which are filed by justices. His disclosures did not list recent gifts, travel to, or the land purchased by Mr. Crow. Associate Justice like Justice Thomas make a salary of $295,000. Chief Justice Roberts makes $298,000. Miss Thomas, who goes by Ginny, you call her Jimmy, is well known for her conservative activism and for being a blatant liar. Her involvement in the push to subvert the 2020 election raised questions over whether Justice Thomas should have recused himself on Supreme Court. He had to recuse himself right to prison. Your story.
Okay.
I just want to comment. Want to comment on how our
I saw on
Court
Twitter
is totally
somebody
illegitimate?
saying people are allowed to have friends, guys. Like, this isn't about having friends, okay? Yeah, people are allowed to have friends. Just don't pay your friends, for their house.
My friend bought my house and refurbished it, right? And still lets my mom live there, even though she's like paying rent. Or maybe she pays $1, right?
All right, my next story is about more UK immigration mess-ups. With a Ukrainian orchestra's key members refuse visa to play in the UK. I'm guessing key members, they mean like the soloist, the orchestrator, the conductor, all the first seats. Like, no, we're gonna play without the first seats. We're just gonna play with the harmonies and no melody. That's what we're gonna do. Like, I have no idea what they mean by key members, but I guess those explain in the article. Promoter claims catastrophe as it costs more than $88,000 and accuses British government of hypocrisy. Key members of the Ukrainian State Orchestra were refused visas to play a series of concerts in the UK this month in a catastrophe the promoter claims cost more than €100,000 or £88,000. The Kamlensky Orchestra was due to tour the UK this month with 2 shows, the magical music of Harry Potter and the music from Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit and the Rings of Power. Boy, I would have loved to go to those shows, but I guess they're cancelled now. The show had been promoted on the UK government's website as an example of British-Ukrainian relationship. They even used it as PR. After the orchestra played the Harry Potter show in Belgium last year, the deputy British ambassador in Brussels, Chloe Lauder, hailed it as an incredible honor to have such an iconic part of British culture performed by a Ukrainian orchestra. The promoter, Star Entertainment, had accused the UK government of hypocrisy. They made a big deal out of supporting the Ukrainians, but when it came to giving them visas to play in the UK, they didn't want to know. said the chief executive, Jaka Bizzilis, who is known in the UK entertainment industry after working with Richard Curtis on 2 film projects and with Bob Geldof on the Cinema for Peace Foundation, which evacuated the Russian dissident Alexei Navalny from Siberia to Berlin in 2020. He called on the culture secretary, Lucy Fraser, to stand down if artists keep being treated like this, saying the immigration difficulties experienced by an increasing number of foreign artists damages UK citizens' culture and the relationship in Europe. It also influences people to lie. Instead of saying, I'm here for work, they'll just say, I'm here to visit my family who live in this place. It's not like they're gonna put a tracker on you. I'm just saying, I was living in Wales for 6 months. They didn't put a tracker, they didn't come visit my house. They just, oh, we believe you. Don't use any of our state funds. Stamped the little 6 months allowed to stay here in the passport, and it was over. But with the Ukraine, yeah, this is what happens when you fuck it up so bad. People just start lying just to get in, because it's too hard. We do everything right, and they still deny us. We'll just lie next time, because that's easier.
Exactly. What's the point in telling the truth? Just investigate the hell out of us and deny us anyway.
A rising number of overseas artists are struggling to enter the UK because of post-Brexit red tape. One such was the German noise rock band Sugarcut, which we covered last time. And last week, after border guards that had day jobs unrelated to music. Those responsible for cutting off artists and culture from the UK should be named and held accountable, said Bizzilis. Band musicians and orchestras will not come to the UK anymore at risk of not being let in. Ukrainian, I can't wait for like somebody like BTS, some BTS member. Sorry, we're gonna deny you entrance.
They're not gonna have that.
Your main job is actually dancing, not singing, so you're not allowed to sing.
It's gonna be like the 3rd saxophone player, man. It ain't gonna be no good.
The Ukrainian orchestra was supposed to begin the UK tour of the show in Portsmouth on April 1st, but a day before, key members, including the conductor, that's what I thought, the conductor, which is a key member, and 4 first violins, I knew it, first seat violins, had still not received visa. Huh? It's not as somebody who's been in orchestra, it's not as simply as, oh, just do the second violins do it. The second violins have never played the music before. So you're telling them to go, for a paid gig, go up there and just sight read. It'll be fine. And the conductor, some guy who doesn't know how the songs are, like, because you can make changes as the conductor, right? You can decide, you know what, let's add a crescendo here. He has to figure out, a new conductor would have to figure out the old conductor's entire system of how he's playing the music. Or make it up.
You know what the solution is?
What?
The solution? Madonna thought of it years ago. Lip syncing. Play the music.
Why would you lip sync violins?
I'm just telling you what the solution is. Well, you just pretend playing them. You hire a couple of prop guys, you put them in tuxedos, give them a violin, and do this. Yeah, I mean,
imagine paying for that. Problem? I want to see.
You don't plug in a microphone.
I want to see the Ukrainian orchestra perform live. Actually, it's just a recording. Imagine that.
I didn't say it was brilliant. I just said that's a solution. It's a work. They've been doing it, for.
They could do it as a joke, or they could do it as a joke towards this, right? Sorry, guys. We wanted to perform this live for you, but the UK's immigration laws are so bad, we've decided to just play recording. Good night.
Oh, watch every British pop show from the start of British pop shows. They usually have the guys just singing
for television,
with the music piped in. Or they have the what? Yeah,
that's for television. There's a reason for that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, it's good enough for television. It's good for idiots in a crowd who'll believe anything, right? Well, that's what pop music does. They lip sync. They lip sync all the time. They consider their fans idiots. Well, we're going out there. We're going to play some.
This is an orchestra, though. You're literally paying for the live music experience. That's what orchestra is for.
I am telling Great Britain how fucking stupid they are. I'm not giving them real-life examples of what they should do. This is called sarcasm. It's really a thing, I'm not just actually giving you concrete ideas, okay? This is sarcasm. Don't get it twisted. Jeez.
They ended up stuck in Paris for a week, waiting for the British embassy to issue visas. 2 days after the tour was due to start, they were told they needed to pay $15,000 for emergency visas. Okay, so there's also extortion. We're not going to let you in, but if you bribe us, we'll let you in.
How much do you really want to be here?
These 24-hour express visas failed to be an issue in time, said Bizliz, who accused the UK government of holding the orchestra hostage in Paris. There was no real reason for the refusal. It was just a random discrimination of Ukrainian artists, he added. Oh no, don't add racism in there, because then people are going to say you're wrong. He claimed the visas are only issued after Star Entertainment asked the British Embassy for an explanation to put in a press release as a plan to inform the media. But it was too late for some of the first contents in Portsmouth and Lowry, Salford and York, Barbican. The Portsmouth show went ahead, but with UK-based musicians drafted in at the 11th hour to sight read. I knew it. Let's just sight read the music. It'll be fine. They were unable to play the full program, and as a result, many audience members demanded refunds, even though the substitute ensemble received standing ovations. Probably because they were like, wow, great job sight reading that, because you guys just got here literally 2 seconds before the show started. Good job. I've been to sight reading competitions, okay? It's not fun. Not enjoyable. It's the worst thing ever. The Lowry show had to be postponed to 2024. Okay, that's a different year. And then the York concert to later this month. Bizils estimates that the debacle has cost the company €100 in fees, hotels costs, and reputational damage. The government spokesperson, I would say even more in reputational damage. Like completely and totally laid out by the UK government. Hey guys, Ukrainian orchestra's coming. Oh boy, I'm excited. We're not letting him in though. It was just a joke. Okay, sorry. We spent a lot of money promoting this. Musicians and performers are valid and important part of the UK culture, with the country attracting world-class entertainers and musicians from around the globe. This is why we offer dedicated immigration route for creative workers. All visa applications are carefully considered on their individual merits in accordance with the immigration rules, said some asshole from the government who just doesn't want to say, we fucked up, sorry. I don't know who the quote's from, it's just quoted. I think it's probably quoted from like, we asked the government why they did this, and they said, we're gonna give you a really vague answer. Where there are delays in processing of applications, we will always endeavor to identify such issues can be avoided in the near future through improvements to our back office function and capability. Aha! They're trying to say, it was the workers who work in the offices, they're slow, and also you should have applied 15 years in advance, and then you would have been allowed in, okay? So it's not our fault. You need to try harder next time. Your story.
Oh, right.
Obviously,
bureaucratic
very much about
snafus aplenty. I'm going to try to squeeze 3 stories, maybe, or maybe I'll just do one. Let's see. There was a celebration in Washington D.C. yesterday. Was it like a big political event? No. Was it that they won a championship? No. Nope. They got rid of the worst owner in sports. Dan Snyder agrees to sell Washington Commanders for $6 billion. The NFL team is on track to be sold for a record figure to a group led by Josh Harris, and as investigations into sexual harassment claims in the team's finances continue. Josh Harris, an owner of the NBA's Philadelphia 76ers and the NHL's New Jersey Devils, also owns part of the Pittsburgh Steelers, so you have to sell that, agreed in principle to buy the Washington Commanders for a record $6 billion from Dan Snyder, a longtime owner plagued by scandals and drew investigations from the NFL and Congress. With the end of the Snyder's tenure nearing, the NFL can begin to distance itself from a painful chapter in its history and write the future of popular franchise, which under Snyder has been tarnished by accusations of toxic workplace and inability to secure a new stadium. Oh, and also having a really bad team a lot. That's also true. That's the thing sports fans actually care about. The sale, first reported by Sportico, is confirmed by a person with knowledge and agreement, is not authorized to speak. The agreement comes as the NFL continues its second investigation into widespread sexual harassment made against executives of the team, including Snyder, as well as financial improprieties. These allegations, coupled with Snyder's inability to build a new stadium and a backlash from teams' fans, have pushed many of the owners of the league's other teams to consider voting to force him to sell, which he bought in 1999 for $800 million. Let's do some quick configuring here. $800 million into $6 billion. It goes into, that's over sevenfold. So he made over sevenfold his profit in 24 years. Harris's group includes Mitchell Rails, a billionaire from Washington, D.C., and a group of limited partners that includes Magic Johnson. Once they submit the deal, the sale would have to be approved by the league's finance committee and by 3/4 of the 31 owners. Shouldn't be a big deal. Josh Harris is already an owner in 2 leagues and a partial owner in the NFL. Do you want me to do another story or do you want to continue?
Yeah, just keep going. That one's short.
Okay, in Florida, they got 2 feet of rain the other day and a 24-hour period. Torrential downpours inundated southwest Florida on Thursday, bringing down total rainfall in Fort Lauderdale region of more than 2 feet in recent days, with widespread flooding that blocked roads, closed schools, and shut down an airport. Preliminary reports showed that about 25 inches, 64 centimeters, of rain had fallen in Fort Lauderdale, making it a 1 in 1,000 year event. We seem to be getting a lot of those type things. It's extremely rare. This is an astronomical amount of rainfall. Some 2 million people, he said meteorologist Sean Batty. Some 2 million people in Broward County were under a flood warning, and relentless rain drenched the area. Parts of Florida, Atlantic coast, north of Miami are already seeing 20 inches of rain over the last several days, National Weather Service said. No injuries or deaths have been reported. Video footage social media showed sheets of rain pounding the area, reached tops of cars and people wading through waters. In one video, a person swam in waters that had flooded a roadway. The thing has been parked for hours, meteorologist Alex Lamers said on Twitter Wednesday night, referring to the storm system pumping rain into the region. Like putting a faucet right over Fort Lauderdale, turning it on and walking away. So, heavy rains and flooding also forced Broward County Public Schools, serving 250,000 students, to cancel classes on Thursday. Yeah, just swim to the bus, kids. Fine. Get on your inner tube. And that's the Florida weather news. And one more weird item in the news. About 18,000 cattle are killed. Oh, that's kind of loud. About 18,000 cattle are killed in a fire at a dairy farm in Texas. 18,000.
Yeah, I don't even know how much that is because it's too big of a number.
Ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, we had maybe
1,000. So
we probably had 25 cows tops at our peak.
Yeah, I've only seen
18,
small
000.
farms. I've never seen a huge 18,000 farm. Maybe when we drove through Texas.
A thick plume of smoke mushroom. You know, there was one just north of us when we lived in New Mexico by Las Cruces, a huge dairy farm. Just went for miles and miles. I think it was 6 miles long alongside the highway. It seemed like it. It's probably still there. The 911 calls. 911. This is a story in the New York Times. Livia Ripka. The 911 calls came in rapid succession, with reports of explosion and fire on Monday that officials would later say had trapped one female employee and thousands of cattle inside a milking parlor at the dairy farm in Dimmitt, Texas. When emergency responders approached after 7 p.m., they witnessed a thick plume of smoke mushrooming over the plains. The worker, whose name and authorities is not released, was rushed to the hospital by helicopter in Lubbock, Texas. So this is near Lubbock, which is the panhandle of Texas. While devastating, I'm grateful that there was no further injuries, Sid Miller, the Texas Agriculture Commissioner, said in the statement. As for the cattle, he noted about 18,000 had died. This was the deadliest barn fire for cattle in Texas history, I guess. The investigation and cleanup may take some time. The episode appears to be the largest mass deaths of cattle in the single fire, not only in Texas, but also from the United States in the latest 2 decades, according to data from the Animal Welfare Institute, a nonprofit that has been tracking barn fires since 2013. During that period, more than 6 million animals have been killed in barn fires, which the organization says are often caused by electrical malfunctions. But less than 1% of the animal casualties have been cattle. Cattle have died in mass in other circumstances, however. In 2016, a blizzard killed more than 35,000 dairy cows in Texas. Yeah, but that wasn't in one place. The following year, some cattle farmers in California lost their herds and livelihoods to these devastating wildfires. Officials said the cause of Monday's explosion of fire at South Fork Dairy Farm in Dimmitt, a city of around 4,000 people, remained under investigation by the state fire marshal. The fire marshal's office did not immediately respond to requests for further information on Thursday evening. Local officials, including Mayor Dimmitt and Castro County Judge, also could not be immediately reached. When reached by phone on Thursday evening, Frank Brand, who is listed as the farm's operator, said that he could not comment. The Texas Association of Dairymen Industry Group that advocates for dairy farmers said that a statement that was deeply saddened that a family dairy, 18,000 cows does not sound like a family dairy. It sounds like a huge...
Yeah, a family owns the farm, sure. Are they working on all 18,000 cows? Probably not. They're probably using...
They're not working at
cheap
all.
labor.
It's a bunch of...
Freaking farm hands who are paid 10 cents for every cow.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not. I always say, oh, it's a small little farm, 18,000 cows. And that probably wasn't even all the cows they own. Your story.
All right. In culture news today, I'm going to talk about Kathleen Hanna's feminist party band Le Tigre reuniting. It's depressing our lyrics are still relevant 20 years later, she says. They got back together for a one-off show on Hannah's doorstep. Then they realized they had unfinished business to affirm their place in the punk canon and get warring feminists offline and reveling together. Most bands wring their hands over whether to reunite or not, but for Le Tigre, it was easy. The Impetuous was a festival in Pasadena, Los Angeles in 2022. It was 3 miles from my house, says frontwoman Kathleen Hanna. Laughing, I was like, I want to do this because I can cruise down the hill and go to the festival and all my friends can come. Then they concluded that the rehearsals for the festival, done over video call and in an LA, New York, where bandmates Joanna Fateman and JD Sampson live, shouldn't be wasted. They announced a full tour, their first since 2005, which hits the UK in June. Returning now, with Hannah free from Lyme disease that severely limited her life for more than 8 years, feels cathartic. Getting back together to perform these songs is a bit of a resolution for us artistically, says Fateman. We were either under too much pressure from promoting an album or we didn't totally get to realize our vision. So we're able to scale it up almost 20 years later, which is a crazy opportunity. Who wouldn't take it? After her success as a frontwoman of Riot Grrrl pioneers Bikini Kill in the early 1990s, Hannah had been depressed and initially uninterested in forming another band, but she and Fateman moved from their hometown of Portland, Oregon to New York City and started Le Tigre in 1998. Hannah's voice had matured to become full and resonant, and together they asserted what they thought music fans needed at the time, a culture of non-competition and upbeat praise within the group, projected to the wider world, plus extremely catchy pop songs. Take Decepticon, a sing-along about the lack of meaning in popular rock, or the extensive feminist history lesson contained in Hot Topic, Tammy Ray Carlin and Sleater Kinney, Vivian Dick, and Lorraine O'Grady. Meanwhile, feminism went mainstream. Hannah was frequently asked questions such as, is it problematic that Beyonce performs in front of the word feminist? There's a million ways to discredit political movements, and that's one of them, she says. I think that a lot of those critiques in the mainstream are basically Miley Cyrus says she's feminist, so it's not real anymore and we shouldn't be associated with it. It's just a clickbait conversation that hasn't got anything to do with what's really going on. Feminist activism remained a centralizing part of their lives post Le Tigre. Fateman bought a hair salon and worked as a feminist writer and art critic. Sampson toured with Peaches and her own band, Men. While working as an arts professor at New York University, Hannah was in a band called the Julie Ruin, which she stopped due to her illness. Lyme disease was making it possible for me to tour. But don't expect another Le Tigre album soon. We haven't exhausted this material, says Hannah. It's still challenging and exciting to perform, and I'm understanding nuances in the song that I didn't notice before. I'm having real pride in our songwriting, and so I don't see any need to write anything new. Her audiences have occasionally reflected this change. Even Hannah, known for scrolling feminist slogans on her chest and wearing neon hot pants, wonders how she's supposed to present herself now. I've gotten a lot of messages from women who are around my age saying, I started to feel as if I didn't belong in punk scene anymore, and you made me feel like I can keep doing what I want to do. That feels like the ultimate goal for success. It's hard to age as a punk, even as a feminist electro-punk. Her audiences have occasionally reflected this change back to her. People yell out "Mom" to me, and it's funny, but it's also offensive because I'm over a certain age, I'm like their parent now, or their right grandma, and that kind of ageism just reinforces the idea that you're only valuable if you have children or if you're a fuckable girl in the scene. Those are your two choices. That's so silly and reductive, Hannah says. When La Tigra came on stage, none of the stereotypes made any sense anymore. And that's what we want to be. Something intense, artistic, that makes stupid, boring, mediocre stuff dissolve. La Tigra's UK store starts on June 3rd at the Troxy in London. So, I can relate to that, the idea that, like, they're literally feminist punk rockers and you're trying to put them in a box, you know? Hey, you're old now! I don't give a shit, I'm a punk rocker. What do I care? Yeah, people age, what's the big deal?
Yeah, don't care about anything. That's punk rock. This day in history, right? Basically here. What happened in this day in history, April 14th? One famous thing happened. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. Well, he was shot. He died the next day. Okay. And April 14th, 1865. Septimus was declared emperor of Rome by his troops and went on to found a personal dynasty and convert the government into military monarchy. In 1471, deposed and exiled King of England Edward IV defeated King Henry VI's force at the Battle of Barnet near London, enabling him to retake the throne. That was a lot. In 1828, Noah Webster published an American Dictionary of the English Language. So we got a dictionary of English words in 1828. Basically just took the E off the end of all the English words. The birdie, whatever. Anne Sullivan. Helen Keller's teacher was born in this day in 1866 in Springfield, Massachusetts. In 1902, American businessman J.C. Penney opened his first dry goods store in Kenmare, Wyoming. John Gielgud, English actor and producer and Shakespearean actor, was born on this day in 1904. American architect Louis Sullivan, the father of modern American architecture, died in this day in 1924. American author John Steinbeck's classic The Grapes of Wrath, which was set during the Great Depression and traces the migration of Oklahoma Dust Bowl family to California, was published on this day on 1939. American professional baseball player Pete Rose was born this day in 1941. American author Ralph Ellison published his debut novel, Invisible Man. I don't even know what they just made up a word for this. That tells the native and idealistic young black man is widely regarded as classic. It was published in 1952. A force of U.S. warplanes bombed Libya on this date in 1986. I remember it. I was in 29 Palms Marine Corps Electronics School when this happened. Guess what? We bombed Libya. He couldn't even pronounce it. He was so excited. The gunny out there.
Yay! We did
and
it.
I'll always remember it.
Bombs.
Well, we had a gunny, the company gunny. His name was Gunny Boyd. He had these Gunny Boydisms. He would say things that make no sense at all. He said, if everybody's upset about this bombing, and he's saying this in front of a formation of about 4,000 people. We had a big battalion. He goes, I got 2 words for those people. I'm tired of dying. That's 3 words, Gunny. That's 3. Anyway, little side joke. Researchers announced the end of the Human Genome Project in 2003. So they mapped the human genome, and it took 13 years. In 2004, Bartholomew I, economical patriarch of the Eastern Orthodox Church, formally accepted the apology offered by John Paul II for his sacking of Constantinople by the Crusader armies in the 13th century. All right, all them dead people in the 13th century feel better.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, in 2010, the really hard to pronounce volcano in Iceland began sending its ash plumes into the skies, disrupting air traffic for days across northern and central Europe. let's spell this word, shall we? EYJAFJALLAJMLOT-O thing, KULL, volcano. There's today's episode of Sesame Street. Head hedge fund manager, Bernie Madoff, the famous Ponzi scheme guy, died at the age of 82 at this day in 2021. Other birthdays: Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, happy birthday. Julie Christie, British actress, happy birthday. Loretta Lynn, who died recently, happy birthday, Loretta. And on Sunday, it is my mom's 100th birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. And today, that's the headlines and all the nonsense from Friday, April 14th, 2023. You go ahead.
All right, that's been me from Europe talking about orchestras, getting really angry about orchestras. It's very, I have a personal take in this. Okay,
Musicians
this idea of not letting the conductor
unfairly
of an orchestra into the country is just ridiculous to me. Anyways, I hope to see you next week.
I don't even see the point. I mean, the whole point of it was like, let's make sure we're all getting together on this. No, let's cause bureaucratic snafus instead. And there's Roger with comprehensive news of planet Earth on Before Coffee. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels: Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.